Hey everyone, Chase Riley here with CR Media. Like I said, doing something a little different today. We are going strictly live, and it's just me by myself. My co-host Seth Hackett had some issues going on this weekend, so he wasn't able to make the show. So that's why if you subscribe to the podcast, which I highly recommend you do, I would greatly appreciate it. You'll notice that the episode for Saturday didn't get uploaded, and this is why. So this will be structured to where I can convert it into audio and make a podcast later. But for right now, figured I would come live and kind of do this how if you follow CR Media, I do a Chiefs stream with my friend James Howe, the James Howe's Chiefs Talk. I'm the co-host, and when we're on there, we have the chat up. We like to get people involved in it, so I figured this is just something I'll do differently today, and just kind of see where it goes. So just kind of getting started off. This show's called Bad Booking. It's just me and my friend Seth just kind of shooting the stuff, kind of throwing in our ideas, what we think of it, you know, and kind of making fun of what's happening and making fun of our own ideas as well. So last week we broke down the card of Elimination Chamber going into it, and it's weird because it feels like this week has just ran together so much that it feels like Elimination Chamber was more than just last week. It feels like Elimination Chamber was a while ago, but that's where it was, and we kind of gave some predictions. Some of them were right, some of them were a little off the wall, but for the most part, like I said, if you haven't, all of my social medias are extremely available. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, TikTok, all that good stuff. So, and then attached to all those social medias is a link tree that also has my Spotify in there, to where you can go listen to the Bad Booking episodes. And then also, if you subscribe to the Twitch or any of the other ones, you can find the pre-recorded episodes on those as well. Usually, we like to mix in a little bit of mixed martial arts and a little bit of boxing into this. This week, we're not doing that. This week, we're going to go strictly wrestling because it's been a crazy week. And I think if I mixed in all three this week, I think this show would probably go past 5 or 6 hours. So we don't want that. So this week it's all wrestling, and obviously the huge story from last week, which was crazy to think about. Seth and I spoke about this last week, where we were kind of like, in what crazy world is it where the Cody Rhodes story legitimately overshadowed a possibility of Austin coming back and wrestling at WrestleMania? It's just blew my mind. So, but it is, Cody's abrupt departure from AEW caused a lot of stir in the wrestling world, as it should have. He's one of the founding fathers, so to speak, an EVP, all that stuff. So him leaving, has caused quite the ruckus. No news yet about where Cody's going to land. Obviously, when the story first broke, it was stated that he was going to WWE. That it was all said but done, and still nothing on it. So, just something to keep your eye on. I know my guy Seth. He usually follows Meltzer. I pay close attention to Fightful. Sean Ross Sapp and all those guys over there, they do a fantastic job. Dave does a good job too. I just, Seth likes to listen to Dave's daily stuff. So I've tried, it goes a little bit too long. I kind of like to read at my own pace and kind of get the main story and then kind of move on. Because I'm watching wrestling 7 days a week. It feels like so. I'm trying to catch everything. So, um, Elimination Chamber. Kind of just running down the results a little bit. If you haven't seen Elimination Chamber, there's not really much to miss. It was one of WWE's Saudi events, and they kind of took those Elimination Chamber matches to the next level. So the first one, the women's chamber, which was halfway decent. For what it is, uh, with it being in Saudi, and the big issue with women over in Saudi Arabia, and I know WWE has caught a lot of shit from people because they elected to do those. Um, they showcased those women in that match really really well. And Bianca Belair winning was pretty cool. Extremely happy for her. She deserves it. There's a lot of you know division on social media as far as Bianca Belair goes, and um, Bianca was not an indie sweetheart. She didn't travel. She didn't come up through local promotions. She's a WWE Performance Center um, organic creation, and she built a lot of steam in NXT. Came up to the main roster, and won people over on there, and had a pretty cool WrestleMania moment last year with her and Sasha. The WrestleMania, they're doing 2 nights on the weekends. The first night they let Sasha and Belair go on last to close out the show on the first night, which was huge. It was huge for both of those women, being women of color, and it was also huge that it was a women's match for the title, and it main evented and closed out the show. So that was awesome. And the SummerSlam, Becky Lynch, who was probably the hottest woman in WWE in the past few years, came back and squashed Bianca in 20 seconds. And a lot of people didn't like that. A lot of people got, a little frustrated because, they built Bianca up and then they tore Bianca down so quick. It was just a squash. And I know there's been some back and forth, like, hey, did Bianca get a fair shake? Well, the other side would argue, she never legitimately got a one-on-one rematch with Becky. Every single time that she has gotten an opportunity, either somebody else has lost or Becky has used. Becky is a heel, and she's done heel things to win those matches. So Becky, Becky beating her the way she has. So a lot of people kind of felt like Bianca had unfinished business. And the side that's against Becky or Bianca winning right now are the side that's like, hey, what about Liv Morgan? And Liv Morgan is another grown WWE grown talent, and I think that she'll definitely get her shot when the time comes. But for now, it's Bianca's turn to get redemption about what happened last year. So I'm happy. I'm happy about that. I think they'll go somewhere with it, and Liv is definitely not done. Liv will get her time. But I said this in a TikTok, and if you don't follow CR Media on TikTok, I greatly appreciate it. I was gonna go live on TikTok like 30 minutes before the show, just kind of like do a pre-show thing, and found out the hard way that TikTok won't let you go live unless you got 1,000 followers. So So your boys got a little bit of ways to go. So um, on TikTok, I explained that there's times where WWE will WWE is pretty infamous for doing this thing where they'll say, "Hey, we this is what we want you to like," and when the fans go, "Yeah, we don't want that. We want this." Um, one of the guys I follow on TikTok, his name is McGruber, and McGruber kind of explained it where if you go to a restaurant and you're like, "I'm feeling steak. I really, really want a steak," and you've been thinking about the steak, you ordered the steak when your waitress came to the table, and you're expecting to get the steak. Well, then the waitress comes to the table with a fantastic salmon. I mean, it looks amazing. But the salmon is good. Nobody said anything bad about the salmon. But you didn't order salmon. You ordered the steak, and that's what you want. You want the steak. So, WWE has quite the track record of doing that, where um, they will take what we want, and they'll say, "Yeah, well, we know you guys want that, but here's something we think you'll like better." And fans are just like, "Yeah, no, we didn't want that." So this is kind of every once in a while WWE will go, "Okay, we messed up. We tried to give you what we wanted instead of what you wanted. So now we're going to go back and do this." And that's why everybody should want Bianca to get this opportunity, because it's WWE saying, "Hey, we need to make up for what we did in her final um, her WrestleMania moment last year when it got squashed by Becky coming back at SummerSlam." So, uh, did want to take a second. I've got this special lady right here who made a comment about my Chiefs decor. Yeah, right now the way the screen is positioned, you can only see one of them, but that was a bad bitch that made those. That's my amazing wife who made me a bunch of Chiefs decor down here in the room I'm in for my birthday 2 years ago. Yep. So I appreciate that. I don't know if she's still watching, but if she is, I appreciate you like crazy. And I am glad that you're here in the chat room, even though you're not home. Not sure where all you're headed, but um, so the next match on Elimination Chamber that I wanted to talk about was the Drew McIntyre Madcap Moss match. So obviously, nothing too um, nothing too great happened in this match. There was a spot in the match that kind of made me shriek, and I know it did quite a few other people as well. Um, there was a spot in the match where Drew McIntyre tried to do a reverse Alabama slam. So instead of pulling Madcap Moss onto the mat on his back, he would have done it on his face. And so he had Madcap Moss up, and when he brought him down, he spiked Madcap Moss right on the top of his head. Um, I don't know if they will let me. Let's see here. Yeah, so I had a picture of it. I don't think it's going to let me. Still testing out this new software, or not software, but this new website we're using, Restream. Um, Wanted to see if maybe I could get that on there, but it didn't let me. But and when we've talked about these matches, it was kind of just stated obviousness that Drew McIntyre would win. I don't think Madcap Moss actually had a chance at all, unless they were going to pull an angle where you know Corbin costs Drew the match, because what leading up to is Corbin versus Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. Um, no, they'll probably stick that match on the pre-card instead of actually on the main card, which I'm okay with that. So, uh, Rey Mysterio and The Miz fought, and they did an angle where Dominic kind of helped Rey out, and Miz made a comment that he needed to find somebody to even the odds with uh, with the Miz, or with Rey and Dominic. So he teased that he had a mystery partner. We'll get into that, but Rey Mysterio was able to pull up a victory on him. It seems like a lot of the times WWE isn't showcasing Rey in singles spotlights that much anymore, which is fine. He's kind of gotten older, and he wants to put Dominic over. So, but it was nice to see them utilize him for that period of time. Um, Another match that was kind of iffy on why they had it on the card was Ronda Rousey and Naomi versus Charlotte Flair and Sonya Deville. And as Seth and I talked about last week, Sonya Deville took the brunt of it. They want to save that. They want to save that magic for Ronda and Charlotte at WrestleMania. So, um, Ronda showed up. All the women showed up fully clothed, showing no skin, trying to be respectful of Saudi Arabia and how they run things over there. So Ronda showed up in a karate outfit, and I don't know the exact terminology for that. So you can correct me, and I'll make note of it. But um, Ronda looked extremely strong. Um, didn't make Charlotte look too weak. So that way they're preserving the main event for WrestleMania. Um, Lita versus Becky Lynch um, went surprisingly really well. Lita, obviously Lita had some ring rust. Yeah, I have no idea how old she is. Probably pushing 50, I would guess. Anywhere between 45 and 50. Her moonsault looked good. There was one time where she had Becky, and she was trying to do like a sleeper, and it didn't transition very well. But other than that, it was a decent match. Obviously, we knew that Becky was coming out on top on that match. Um, the SmackDown Championship between the Usos and the Viking Raiders. I'm not really sure why it ended. I don't think they actually gave a reason. I think there was speculation that it was, that the event was going over the time limit, and they wanted to, you know, push that. So I was a little upset we didn't get to see that match. Obviously, the Usos probably would have won, but I love watching the Viking Raiders. I hate calling them the Viking Raiders. I prefer to call them the War Raiders. I was a huge fan of them coming into when they came in from the Indies to NXT, and huge fan of them in NXT. Was hoping that they would continue the momentum from NXT over to WWE, and I kind of just lost interest when WWE changed the name. So. Um, Another match that I've seen across social media that a lot of people are upset about is the Elimination Chamber with Brock. And obviously, a lot of people knew that Brock was going to win, but I think that people were upset because the way they had Brock come in and win the way he has. it is what it is. Guys, I understand to a certain degree, but I also, you know, the the consensus has always been Brock is a legit fighter. Um, whether you agree with that or not, I'm not saying I do, but the idea with creative has always been Brock is a legit fighter, a legit badass. We need to make him look like a legit badass. I haven't always agreed with it. Sometimes, I sometimes I think it's really stupid. Obviously, this is sports entertainment. We know it's fixed. We know it's the winners are predetermined. So acting like not acting, but trying to go down there and be like, oh well, Brock would legitimately beat the shit out of these guys. That's fine, but you know the the theatrics and the magic of professional wrestling needed to overshadow that sometimes. One of the things that I hated was they they promoted the SummerSlam back when they tried to redo the draft in 2016. They had a Raw versus SmackDown match between Brock and Randy Orton, and the fight was just promoted like crazy. Promoted so much so that they even showed it on UFC. Um, so then we get to SummerSlam 2016, and Orton and Lesnar come out, and even before, not, going back to the promotion of the match, they weren't only promoting this on UFC television. They were promoting it hard in WWE. That's where the RKO out of nowhere came from. Uh, you know, uh, they were doing a lot of good stuff with Orton and Brock leading up to the match. We get to the match, and then Brock just takes down Orton and elbows him in the head until he's gushing blood. And it looked like a legit shoot. And of course it wasn't. It was a work, but they worked people so well that Jericho actually confronted Brock when they got back to the gorilla position, and Jericho was like, "Yo, like, what the fuck are you doing?" And had to realize that it was a work, that they were in on it. And it's crazy to me because stuff like that made me hate Lesnar, but Lesnar doesn't write this stuff. Um, so those things you got to remember. And so, of course, Lesnar's going to come into the chamber and he's going to squash these guys that are in there. Because right now, the way WWE has it set up is WWE has it set up to where Brock and Roman are untouchable. Only Roman can beat Brock, and only Brock can beat Roman. So that's what it is. Also, if you follow on TikTok, I've talked about how a title unification is a pretty splitting argument on social media, on wrestling social media, the internet wrestling community. Some people don't want it to happen. Some people are for it. Here's my thing. You're not utilizing the talent the way they're supposed to be utilized. You've done this draft. You've done a roster, a brand split multiple times in the past 20 years. And every single time you go back to the way it was normally. And so, because it wasn't working, because you don't know how to proportion your talent right. One show will be more over portioned than the other show as far as talent and stars go. Right now it's SmackDown. SmackDown has the better stars, while Raw is, you've worked so hard to build up Roman and everybody else, and kind of lacklustered on some of the guys over here, that they're not drawing as well as Roman and the guys on SmackDown are. So, and here we are again, where one show is lacking as far as star power and ratings and all that stuff. And instead of working to fix it, we're just going to say, yeah, we're going to unify the titles in the draft, which is what they should do. because they can't. We've seen, they've tried to do it multiple times, and we've given them multiple opportunities to do the brand split the right way, and they can't do it. So let's get rid of it. One roster, two shows, one world title, and let it be done. Especially since you've released over 150, over 100 pieces of talent. You know, the roster isn't as bolstered as it was, so there's no need for two separate shows. So that's where we're headed. Like I said, I know people were upset that Brock came in and demolished the people in the Elimination Chamber. Like I said, I'm not shocked. It was going to happen. Um, if you take that out of it, that Elimination Chamber wasn't that bad. There was a couple of spots on there that I really enjoyed. Jiminy Christmas, the F5 off the top of the pod was cool. Um, you know, I did think that was weird that it came down to Lesnar and Austin Theory. I figured they would let it come down to Lesnar and somebody else, but Lesnar got to have some fun with Austin Theory, and that's good. That kid got to take some bumps and earn some respect, so it works for him. The so and I talked about this, and I've shared my thoughts on it. I actually shared it with Sledge, who is an independent wrestler. Um, he runs a Twitch channel, super fun, super good guy. I follow him on TikTok, and I follow his Twitches. And I had mentioned to him that I didn't like the Lashley being taken out of the match due to a concussion, because Seth powerbombed somebody into the pod, and the plexiglass broke and hit Lashley on the head, and they were like, "Oh, he's got a concussion. He's got to go through concussion protocol." Well, an hour prior to that, you had a guy get spiked on his head, and nobody stopped anything for concussion protocol for him. Now, I get it. I'm talking about like the work, the show. So when the spot with Madcap Moss happened, somebody should have went back to the table and said, "Hey, probably shouldn't do that pod spot with Lashley. Or if we are, let's say something else, like his shoulder, because his shoulder was legit hurt." They could have played it. They could have played it 1,000 different ways. I just thought doing the concussion protocol, like, oh, we need to pull Lashley from the concussion protocol, even though he did get hit in the head. We need to pull Lashley for concussion. But that kid earlier in the show that got spiked on his head, yeah, he can go. Well, let's not worry about that. So I just thought it was lazy in my mind, and I thought that was kind of poor. But like I said, overall the match was decent. There wasn't anything crazy about this event. I will say that the last match I'll talk about, the final match on the card that we didn't talk about, was Roman versus Goldberg. I was a little surprised at this match, because I figured they were going to do what they could to make Goldberg look strong, and they kind of didn't. They kind of squashed. I feel like Roman choking Goldberg out was kind of a squash. Like I said, Goldberg's one of those guys that they've made look really strong. Goldberg is kind of unbeatable, depending on who he faces. I think the only people that they've had beat Goldberg since he returned is, Braun, Roman. So Roman squashing Goldberg like that was very shocking. But with these Saudi events, I know we said it. I said it in the last show on these Saudi events. You're looking at, they're trying to bring in as much star power as they can. They're not trying to make new stuff. They're not trying to put new guys on the card. They are legit, just trying to appease the audience over in Saudi Arabia, and the audience over in Saudi Arabia wants to see old school stuff. That's why you'll see Taker show up at these events, Goldberg, all that stuff. So, well, they set up matches for WrestleMania. That's what Monday Night Raw was about. Edge did a fantastic promo where he talked about wanting to have a WrestleMania moment with somebody. It was very similar to how people used to call out Undertaker. Orton, Shawn Michaels, all those guys would come out and be like, "Hey, I've got nothing going on for WrestleMania this year, but I want to have a WrestleMania moment. I want to face somebody." And they would usually call out the Undertaker. I thought this was kind of very resemblance to those type of promos. He did tease a little bit. I know a lot of people on social media kind of thought he was hinting towards Cody Rhodes. I don't think it's going there. I think that it's pretty obvious. It's going to be Edge versus AJ Styles, which I'm all for. I think that'll be a fantastic match at WrestleMania. Probably the best match on the card. I wouldn't be shocked. Damian Priest versus Finn Balor. I think they're hinting towards, I was kind of confused. I know Damian Priest mentioned about wanting to face a high caliber opponent, and kind of talked about WrestleMania. So I wasn't sure if we're doing this match sometime on Raw, or if they're gonna fight at WrestleMania. If they're gonna fight at WrestleMania, I'm extremely shocked because it's been a while since they've done the United States title, where they've said, hey, like they're going to prep a match at WrestleMania for the United States title. So cool. I do, it does kind of rub me the wrong way a little bit because a huge Finn Balor supporter. I think that Finn kind of got the crummy end of the stick when he won the Universal title. The first ever Universal champion got injured, came back, and I feel like they've kind of just shit on him. So but Finn I like Finn. Not a huge Damian Priest fan. I watched him a lot in the Indies as Punishment Martinez, and nothing really stood out to me. Nothing. He didn't really have a kind of like an awe factor to me. But we'll see how that goes. Finn had a tag team match with Tommaso Ciampa. So, it kind of looks like Tommaso Ciampa is getting closer and closer to moving to the main roster and getting off of NXT, which will be really, really, really weird when it does happen. So we'll see where that goes. The Miz announced his partner, and he teased Cody Rhodes. Made a comment about him being, his family being royalty, and he being dashing. So everybody expected Cody Rhodes, and then Logan Paul came out. I shouldn't say everybody expected Cody Rhodes, because I should say there's a lot of people that knew it was going to be Logan Paul. But like I said, they did tease. They made it seem like he was going to announce Cody, and to talk about the Cody thing, to kind of go back to it, I'll say this again. I think if you're WWE, you keep teasing this Cody comeback as much as you can, and then you let Cody come back the Raw after Mania or the SmackDown after Mania. That's what I would do. Because I don't feel like WrestleMania needs Cody Rhodes. I would love to see Cody. I would love to see Cody wrestle at WrestleMania, but I just don't think that WrestleMania needs Cody Rhodes. So I think WWE could hold off on bringing Cody in if he goes to WWE, of course. I know we're all assuming he does, based off of what the news that we had heard, that he was all but signed. WWE NXT 2.0. Let me if you haven't listened to the podcast before, I will reiterate that I'm not a fan of NXT 2.0. And it's not that it's not good, because it is. It's very good. But there is there is a bitter pill that I'm watching NXT 2.0 and not NXT Black and Gold, because it was such a great time in wrestling, and I just, when I very first started watching NXT, I immediately fell in love with it. In fact, NXT is what brought me back to watching wrestling. I didn't watch wrestling for quite a few years, and then full time when I saw NXT, I was like, oh, okay, and so NXT 2.0. I did like how they're having Dolph. They've had AJ and they've had Dolph on there to kind of help get those guys some exposure, because I know a lot of people feel the same way I do. They don't want to. They're not interested in NXT 2.0 because it's not NXT Black and Gold, but I do like how they're trying to get people interested in it. Anyways, there is good talent on there. They've got an amazing young roster. So Dolph Ziggler, has been trying to come over and put over Ciampa and Braun Breaker. So Ziggler came over and defeated Tommaso Ciampa for the number one contendership. So at some point we will get Dolph Ziggler versus Braun Breaker, which I 1,000% love Dolph Ziggler. I think Dolph Ziggler is one of the best, if not the best, worker in professional wrestling. It has been for 10 years. He's fantastic. So I think if you want to give the kid a good rub, you put him in the ring with Dolph Ziggler, and Dolph will do what he does, and that's steal the show. LA Knight. I almost thought about saving this for when Seth comes back, but I will go ahead and talk about it, here, just kind of give my 2 cents, and I'll touch base with Seth when we do the show next week. But LA Knight, when he was in TNA, as Eli Drake, he did the yeah dummy, like yeah dummy kind of thing. And when he very first showed up to NXT, he gave me Rock vibes. He talked with his hand like The Rock did, kind of bobbled his head like The Rock would do, like old Rock, like 99 Rock. And so I know he faced a lot of criticism for that. I know Mark Henry had talked about it on his show and said, talked about it on Busted Open Radio and said that he was mocking, he's copying The Rock. Kind of felt like that. Then, I kind of stopped watching NXT as it transitioned into 2.0. And as I'm starting to watch it again, I stopped watching it for like a month, maybe a month and a half. But as I transitioned to watching it again, and Seth asked me, he was like, why does LA Knight act like he's mimicking Stone Cold? So, and as I've watched it, I have kind of seen that. It's kind of weird to watch him transition. Like it seemed like he was copying The Rock, and now it seems like he's copying Stone Cold. Now that he's a babyface, so it's weird. I know like I said, I know LA Knight has faced criticism about it. Just let him be Eli Drake. Let him be Eli Drake, and I think he'll be fine. Maybe I don't know what it is about his voice or about his mannerisms, but it just, like I said, it seems like he is copying off of what Austin used to do or The Rock used to do in the 90s. So Nikita Lyons made her debut. If you're not familiar with what Nikita Lyons was or what she brought to the table, they did a lot of vignettes of she was kind of like a hip hop dancer, martial artist. They made her look, they've made her look really strong in those vignettes, and she showed up and had a really good match. I thought it did what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to showcase her and put the spotlight on her. And she had this weird pin I was going to show the video of it, but I lost the video, and yeah, prepared for this show, and kind of got lost in all the transitions, everything happening. So I apologize about that. I was going to show a clip. She did the splits onto her opponent to pin her for the 1-2-3. Thought it was very creative. NXT 2.0 was a damn good show. Like I said, I think bringing in guys like AJ Styles with Grayson Waller, and bringing in Dolph to work with Tommaso Ciampa and Braun Breaker is great ideas. It makes the show that much more interesting. Wednesday's Dynamite. Um, this show was great. I feel like AEW Dynamite is just it's a solid show every week. No matter what they're doing, they're putting on good matches. They're telling good stories. My only issue right now with AEW is I wish that Rampage was 2 hours so they could showcase more talent on TV. But Dynamite, Josh Gresham was backstage. There's a lot of talk that he could eventually show up and do some things with AEW. Buddy Murphy debuted. They made there was a lot of talk of him being the third person in the House of Black, and so wasn't too shocked when he showed up. I was excited. I love Buddy Murphy. I think that I wasn't a huge fan of him and Wesley Blake when they were in NXT, with Alexa Bliss as their manager. But you know, I wasn't a big fan. Nothing stood out to me about that tag team other than Alexa Bliss, of course. Now, and then I watched Wesley Blake move on, and Buddy Murphy kind of went to 205 Live, and then it was 205 Live when I started watching him on there. I was like, yeah, I was like, Buddy Murphy's a stud, man. He's got a lot of stuff going for him, and he's gonna make some splashes, and it's cool to see him in AEW. So, like I said, the show overall was good. I don't want to spend too much time on it because I could go all day about it. But Tony Khan done has done this thing in the past where Tony Khan likes to build up announcements on social media, and he faced a lot of criticism. Um, he faced a lot of criticism last time he did, and wanted to uh, hype up this announcement, and he called it a forbidden door. Well, the announcement was Keith Lee, and Keith Lee wasn't really a forbidden door, um, depending on the forbidden door meaning that you were looking at. So when you think of forbidden door, you think of a guy who's contracted by another company, showing up in another company and doing work for them. That's what I think of when I think of forbidden door. So Tony called it a forbidden door thing, and after people were like, people kind of criticized him, he was like, man, I kind of put my foot in my mouth here. And instead of just letting it ride, Tony made up for it and said, hey, you know I know I put my foot in my mouth when I said forbidden door, and Keith Lee's not really a forbidden door, but hey, here's Jay White. I went ahead and worked something out with Jay White to show up and work with AEW for a little bit to kind of make up for me saying the wrong thing about the Forbidden Door. I thought that was cool. It's awesome to see that when management and wrestling companies make mistakes, they go back and they try and fix them. So it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier. But he said that this announcement is so huge that the legal team has him under an NDA. Now, uh, I know there's a lot of talk of Isaiah Swerve coming to AEW. I don't think that being that announcement warrants him having to sign an NDA. So I was going to kind of get Seth's feedback on this. Um, don't have a lot of live viewers right now, so I mean, I don't really, if you got something, you're more than welcome to put it in the comments. But I am kind of just flabbergasted on this. I I did not. I'm not really sure what this could be. I've seen speculation that they have worked out a deal with a streaming company, which would be interesting to say the least. But like I said, not really sure what's going on there. Um, we were going to talk about AEW Revolution. I think I will save that for next week's show because Revolution will be on Sunday, and we will do a bad booking episode on Saturday, and just kind of go from there. There was a crazy thing that happened this week where it gets brought up, and when I say crazy, because when I use the word crazy, what I'm talking about is it's crazy to me that a billion-dollar company like World Wrestling Entertainment, a publicly traded company, shareholders, all that stuff, that their guys that work for them, no matter where they are, no matter if it's a wrestler, no matter if it's a personality, no matter if it's somebody on the business side of things, no matter where you are, it's weird to me that they could have wrestlers or anybody who's under contract have a contract come up and expire and nobody not know about it. I'm referring to Adam Cole. I'm referring to, all the reports that we've read of like, hey, this person's contract is up in so many months. It's like, you think somebody would keep better track of that stuff to say, oh wow, we should address this before it becomes an issue. So, and what I read is that Cesaro's contract was coming up, and it came close, and it didn't look like they were, it didn't look like anything was going to happen. I guess I would say that if if you knew wrestlers' contracts were coming up, and you paid better attention to it, you could get out in front of it and work out long-term deals or short-term deals, whatever it is. So Cesaro non-renewed his contract with WWE, so he's not under a 90-day no compete clause. Cesaro can show up wherever he wants, which is super exciting. I'm happy for him, and if he feels like he's not being used right at WWE, then I think it's obviously I would want him to move on to other things because it's weird. You look at guys like Sami Zayn. I won't say AJ Styles because I think WWE has done quite a bit with AJ Styles, which was very shocking to me because I initially thought when AJ came into WWE that WWE was just going to they were just going to treat him like an outsider and not do anything with him. I was wrong. They've done quite a bit with AJ. But you look at guys like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, who I kind of feel like haven't been utilized to their full potential, who could be utilized to their full potential if they went somewhere else, whether that be AEW or that be wherever. Doesn't matter. And they elect to re-sign with WWE, and nothing bad. They say, hey, we love it here. We want to continue working here. And obviously money probably has a lot to do with it. The idea though that you can only make money in WWE is silly. There's plenty of promotions out there that are paying their talent well. And it's not just WWE and AEW. Also have to think about merchandise. You know, wrestlers do their own merchandise. Wrestlers can do their own thing outside of WWE and make plenty of money. Um, make a living, live comfortably. So I, you know, when I hear about Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn re-signing, I was always like, man, like I wish they'd have gone somewhere else so I could see them utilized better. But but with this situation, that's how I feel. I feel like Cesaro, they did that old promo from 2014 where Cesaro talked about taking the brass ring, and it was like he never got it. And when he was super over, they stuck him in a tag team with Sheamus, and the tag team with Sheamus worked just because I think people were happy to see him doing something. But the reality was Cesaro should have been in the main picture for a while. And the one time that they finally did it, they're on when they finally gave Cesaro his run this last time, it's against Roman, who's unstoppable right now. So it wasn't perceived well. So that's just my thought on it. I think, like I said, I think Cesaro can go wherever he wants, and he'll have fun and be able to do something that he wasn't able to do in WWE. So, and that's get over. So, before we kind of end on this, we'll talk about the wrestling atmosphere. Like I said, right now, WWE is not the only place to make money for wrestlers. Yes, it sucks when we see our favorite guys get released and guys who we had hopes for and they elect not to do anything with them. So yeah, that's shitty. But like I said, it's definitely not something that you have to worry too much about. Um, there's a lot of booming promotions out there. I didn't realize how many there were until I started doing. I decided I was going to take CR Media and start doing boxing, MMA, and wrestling. And then I was like, well, if I'm going to do wrestling, I need to start picking up on everything. So I was like, can't just watch WWE and AEW and call it a day. I'm watching WWE. I'm watching AEW. I'm watching Impact. I'm watching Defy. I'm watching NWA. I'm watching AAA. It's nuts. So there's a lot of wrestling out there. There's a lot of good stuff. The workers seem to be happy. Like I said, it sucks when our favorites get released, but they can go out there and do something else. Where one door closes, another one opens. So, you know what, guys? If you guys listen to this, I appreciate you like crazy. This is a small journey for me. Or I mean, these are small baby steps in this big journey for me. So I would greatly appreciate it if you would like the social medias, the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, the Twitch, the TikTok. I'm trying to put out as much content out there as I possibly can. We're still talking Chiefs. We're still talking, football, and still talking MMA, still talking boxing. Like I said, we just had a lot of stuff to go over this week, and I actually have more stuff on here. I kind of cut it short because I'm doing this solo and I'm kind of just talking to myself. So, but you're gonna see a lot of from CR Media here in the next year or so. Um, kind of punched me in the gut earlier when I went to go live on TikTok to promote the show, and TikTok told me I can't do it unless I have 1,000 followers. So that is the goal. We are on the road to 1,000. So I would greatly appreciate it if you would check out the social medias, like them, share them. If you can, go to Spotify, Google Podcasts. Still waiting on Apple Podcasts to approve my podcast on there. But you don't have to watch these videos. I understand. I wouldn't want to watch it either if I had to stare at my beautiful face all day. I'd get upset and go, wish I could do something else. So, but download the podcast, listen to it. Appreciate feedback, guys. If you guys get the opportunity, definitely drop me some feedback. Let me know what you like, what you don't like, what you want to see more of on the show. We don't have to talk about current events, but we definitely just want to stick to the main, boxing, MMA, and wrestling road. So, also starting next week after Dynamite, I'll be going live on Twitch. Every event, probably go live on more than just Twitch, but right now we're going to be focusing on Twitch because I'm trying to get followers up on that as well. And when we go live on Twitch, we're just going to be doing post shows, talk about what happened. So, and I'm looking for a co-host for that because right now I'm by myself on that one. So Seth and I just do this one show a week. But those shows, when I start doing them after every show, when I start doing post shows, I would love to link up with somebody and see about them joining in. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely hit me up. I would love to look into that with you. Other than that, guys, the social media right down here, as you see my name, right there where my big finger is, it says Chase, and then it says CR Media 1988. If you put that in Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of them, you'll find me. If you have any trouble, message me and we'll, I'll get you a link tree, whatever it takes, guys. I appreciate your support. And other than that, like I said, that's all I have for this week. This has been another episode of Bad Booking. It is such good shit. Have a fantastic night, everyone.